Hey friends, Mrs. Wallace here. I am going to be doing some highlights of some books that are coming up in the upcoming virtual book fair, which remember runs from May 11th to May 24th. The shopping link is right below, so you can check that out. In this particular video, I'm going to be highlighting some interesting realistic and historical fiction novels. Historical fiction and realistic fiction are two very popular genres. So what I've done is I've taken a few books that you may be interested in reading and also buying from our wonderful book fair. So if any of these sound great, then go ahead and buy them from the book fair. Don't forget that every $25 you spend, you get free shipping, and 25% of all the proceeds come back to Collegium so we can use them to buy more books and resources for our library. So here's a highlight of some of the books, historical fiction and realistic fiction books. So the book Rick is considered a realistic fiction book. The author, Gino, he actually wrote another book called George, which is in the same similar lines of the LGBTQ community. So here's a quick summary of the book Rick. Rick's never questioned much, but he's gone along with his best friend Jeff, even when Jeff's acted like a bully and a jerk. He's let his father joke with him about which hot girls he might want to date, even though that kind of talk always makes him uncomfortable. And he hasn't given his own identity much thought, because everyone else around him seemed to have figured it out. But now Rick's gotten to middle school and new doors are opening. One of them leads to the school's Rainbow Spectrum Club, where kids of many genders and identities congregate, including Melissa, the girl who sits in front of Rick in class and seems to have her life together. Rick wants his own life to be that, understood, even if it means breaking some old friendships and making some new ones. So this is considered a middle grade book, so it's appropriate for grades 3 through 8, actually. And again, the first book, I haven't read this particular one, but the first book, George, is very, very good. So I highly recommend this particular author and the book Rick. The next book is actually a book that I did a chapter 1 read aloud for. So if this sounds interesting, then go back to my YouTube page and check out the chapter 1 read aloud to get a little bit of a sampling. It's called The Bicycle Spy, and this is considered a historical fiction book. So this particular historical fiction is a very popular time for writers, and that is World War II historical fiction. Very popular in the library, very popular among students. So again, World War II historical fiction, and it's about a boy who wants to be a professional cyclist. He lives in France during World War II, and he finds himself realizing that his world around him is changing. Now, he's not a part of it all. He's not a Nazi. He's not Jewish. He's not one of the people that are being targeted, but he has friends and friends that are. So he actually ends up using some of these cycling skills to pass on covert information in order to help a friend and her family. So if you like World War II historical fiction, this one's called The Bicycle Spy. I highly recommend it. These next two books that I'm going to talk about are really for grades 7 through 12, so they're considered young adult books. The first one is historical fiction. It's called The Darkest Hour. Here's a quick summary. Never underestimate a pretty face. My name is Lucy Blaze. I'm 16 years old. I have many aliases, but I am none of the girls you see. What I am is the newest agent of the CO7, and we are here to take down Hitler. After the Nazis killed my brother on the North African front, I volunteered at the Office of Strategic Services in Washington, D.C. to do my part for the war effort. Only instead of a desk job at the OSS, I was tapped to join the Clandestine Operations, a secret espionage and sabotage organization of girls. 6 months ago, I was deployed to German-occupied France to gather intelligence and eliminate Nazi targets. My current mission, track down and interrogate a Nazi traitor about a weapon that threatens to wipe out all of Western Europe, then find and dismantle the weapon before Hitler detonates it. But the deeper I infiltrate, the more danger I'm in, because the fate of the free world hangs in the balance, and trusting the wrong person could cause millions of lives to be lost, including my own. So another World War II historical fiction, but this one is a kind of a spy thriller. So there's a little bit of mystery along with the historical fiction element, and it's got a female character, which is a great, great way to introduce a lot of new readers to historical fiction. So again, this one is really meant for grades 7 through 12. It's considered young adult. It's called The Darkest Hour. And this next one, the last one I'm going to talk about today, is another young adult book. It's meant for grades 7 through 12. It is a historical fiction book. Remember, historical fiction are stories that are false, but they're based off of real historical events. So this one's called Kent State, and it's told in verse form. So instead of being in, um, it's in chapters, so to speak, but it's not like paragraphs. So it kind of reads like one giant poem, kind of like the book Poet X. So if you read the book Poet X, that's really, or Out of the Dust, that's another really good one. So this one, May 4th, 1970, Kent State University. As protesters roil the campus, National Guardsmen are called in. In the chaos of what happens next, shots are fired and 4 students are killed. To this day, there is still argument of what happened and why. Told in multiple voices from a number of vantage points, protester, guardsman, townie, student, Deborah Wiles' Kent State gives a moving, terrifying, galvanizing picture of what happened that weekend in Ohio, an event that, even 50 years later, still resonates deeply. So, once again, Kent State is considered for 7 through 12, but it is a true event that's happened in history. And this particular author decided to take multiple viewpoints to see what people actually thought, not just the people who are being shot at, but the guardsmen themselves or the people who the onlookers, the townies. Okay? So those are 4 very interesting books that are all considered historical fiction or realistic fiction. So if you are into that genre, I highly recommend that you buy them at our virtual book fair. If you're not quite into that genre, this is a great jumping point to get into it. And tune in next time for another highlight of what's coming up in the virtual book fair.